At roadside cafeterias in France, next to the napkins, cutlery, and plastic trays, are baskets of free dinner rolls. Hungry? Take as much as you want, bread is as free as air. We have to assume that this is a legacy of the French Revolution. No need to steal, Jean Valjean. The struggle is over. Everyone is equal and no one will go hungry. Put away the guillotine. Parked outside the cafeteria is a 2015 Volkswagen GTI, the 7. And, like all breakthrough ideas, it spawned imitators, all promising the same mix of virtues. Volkswagen has not slacked off for its 7th GTI. A new platform called MQB is both lighter and stronger than before. At a glance, it does look a lot like its predecessor, but the metal is more tightly folded and the roof is lower. Longer in wheelbase and overall length by 2.1 inches, the GTI is within an inch in other dimensions. There's more space inside, and the interior decor, while familiar, is also completely updated. Power comes from the third generation of Volkswagen's direct-injected, 2.0-liter turbo A888 engine. Base versions bound for the US will likely come with 210 horsepower, 10 more than before, and 258 pound-feet of torque, 51 more than before. With the addition of variable lift on the exhaust valves, the new engine is now similar in spec to the version Audi has been using in the A4 for several years. We'll also get the optional performance package that increases horsepower by another 10 ponies and adds an electronically controlled torque vectoring differential, but not until late 2014. We drove a European performance package car alongside this test's GTI and can report that no matter how imprudent you are with the acceleration, the differential holds the cornering line as if the car were tethered by an invisible string. But we opted for the standard Euro spec car for this comparison because the wait for GTI in the States is already long enough, and the conventional differential works quite well. Parked next to the GTI is a Tangerine Screen Ford Focus Street. A staff favorite and 10 best winner, the 247 HP, Euro spec, Street may be a GTI imitator, but it acts as if it's running the Monte Carlo Rally. It's prepped to compete, too. No hatchback since the launcher Delta Integrale has looked more ready for sponsorship decals. But the Street is not in France to run a timed stage. The Street is here because it was the only car able to vanquish the last GTI in our testing. So we filled our coat pockets with free bread and drove off to figure out which democratized performance ideology we'd prefer to follow. We mentioned the Ford's youthful exuberance not to condemn it, but to define it. Quick steering, 1.8 turns lock-to-lock, requires the reflexes of adolescence. Stomp the throttle, and the steering wheel yanks itself away from your hands, the wide 235/40 R18 tires struggling against the stampede of 247 horses that arrive during the temporary overboost. Keep it pointed straight, and the Street will clip off a 0 to 60 time of 5.7 seconds and do a quarter mile in 14.4 seconds at 99 miles per hour. This European Street proved consistently quicker than the last Street we tested. We're not really sure why. It could have been the high-octane European fuel, B, a particularly strong engine, C, a thoroughly broken-in, 7,500 miles, example, or D, all of the above. A wall of noise accompanies any throttle application. Ford Sound Symposer pumps 85 decibels of 2.0-liter turbo party right into your ear at full throttle. The engine noise is inescapable. If cars could speak, we're pretty sure the street would say dude a lot. In addition to being loud, the street is restless, and it never stops fidgeting. Stiff shock tuning transmits every subtlety of the road to the driver. The front end grip is strong, even in tight corners, to the extent that you'll usually find the rear tires sliding before the fronts break loose. Rain kept us from performing skid pad and slalom times. In our last test, the street clung with 0.93 grams of grip. The party never stops, but the street itself can stop from 70 miles per hour in 168 feet, which allows the street to feign sobriety whenever an authority figure appears. The fact is that the street is on perpetual spring break, forever trying to hoist you upside down to do a keg stand. Good times. But sometimes you just want to sip your beer out of a pint glass, like an adult. A set of perfectly formed bracharis is basically the only concession to comfort. Like all foci, the interior looks as if an F-117 stealth aircraft exploded inside. Angular bits jut out at the driver, and the front seat ends up feeling more cramped than the GTI's. Material quality is good, but not quite the luxury car grade stuff in the VW. We love that the street exists. It's like looking at an old yearbook picture of yourself. But while we sometimes like to think we're 19 again, we're actually not. Next to the GTI, the street's joys are fleeting. Ford has built a fountain of youth, but the effects are temporary. There wasn't much wrong with the last GTI. Okay, you couldn't disable stability control, and recently it was not offered with summer performance tires. Despite the mandatory all-seasons, though, only 1 point separated the GTI from the victorious street in last year's comparison test. Having learned from that misstep, Volkswagen of America promises that when the new GTI arrives, it will come with the same Bridgestone Potenza S001 summer rubber worn by our European test car. But it's not the rubber or the now partially defeatable stability control that makes the new GTI remarkable. It's the ease with which it does everything so well. The last GTI could multitask better than just about any car on the market. Comfortable on long drives, a firebrand on a back road, and marvelously utilitarian, the GTI was an A student with varsity letters in 3 sports. But here's what sent our heads aloft. From performance to practicality, every aspect of the new GTI is better than before. It is a lot quicker. The acceleration is effortless, the turbo lag and torque steer are non-existent, and there's power everywhere on the tachometer. We were startled to discover that our 217 HP Euro spec GTI took only 5.6 seconds to hit 60 and that the quarter passed in 14.2 seconds at 100 miles per hour. North American versions may be detuned to 210 horsepower to deal with our lower octane fuel but are expected to deliver the same 258 pound-feet of peak torque. The latest 2.0T is a hot butter delight. The engine turns out 80 decibels of snarly music at full whack and is seemingly unfazed by the GTI's 3,057 pound weight, 121 pounds less than the last 5-door GTI we tested. While the Ford's engine remains in your face, the GTI's 4 recedes into the background when you don't want to hear it. The 6-speed manual has light shift effort and is more precise than the streets. We didn't flub a shift or crunch a synchro in more than 1,000 miles of redline shifts. A new variable ratio steering rack that only requires 2.1 turns to go from lock to lock enlivens steering response. Slower on center, the rack quickens near the extremes so that the GTI is dead stable on the highway but wakes up when you start throwing it into corners. Effort builds linearly in response to cornering pressure. Brake feel, a weakness in the previous GTI, is now Porsche strong. Stopping from 70 miles per hour took only 159 feet.